Hey everyone, I hope 2026 is off to a great start for you. I'm going to be uploading more frequently, so feel free to subscribe. So you may have been keeping up with the news, and one of the top stories is the ICE agent who shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. I don't know that much about the situation itself, at least not to the extent that I want to, or that much about the guy, but one of the things that came out about the guy is that his wife is Filipina, even though he works for ICE and is most likely a conservative. Now, if you remember years back, the police officer who killed George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, his wife was also Asian. So I don't want to speak that much about the individual or the situation like that themselves, but I do want to speak on this phenomenon of right-wing men who end up with non-white women quite frequently.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man.
One other thing I want to add is I have nothing against any kind of interracial couple. My longest ever relationship, her mom was Filipino and her dad was white American. So again, I have no reason to have anything against any sort of interracial couple. And you may be wondering, why do I care?
She comes with a hairbrush, a pocketbook, and 2 different dresses.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
As a brown guy. Like, why? So when I was growing up, I knew a number of guys who were like this. Like white guys who were not into white women, and they openly said it, right? Like they openly said things like, I'm so over white women are not feminine enough for me, white women are brainwashed by feminism, I love Asian women, I love Latinas. Those are the 2 choices they say a lot, by the way. And you may think initially, given their interracial dating preference, how can these guys be prejudiced? That's how I used to think when I was growing up. But then, as I had these friends or just classmates who happen to be white and in interracial relationships, or they happen to be white guys specifically in interracial relationships, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, hey, great for them. Interracial dating is beautiful. But I realized something. You see, at one point, I started dating a woman who happens to be white, or happened to be white. Man, did these guys have a meltdown. I heard some of the most racist things to my face. Like, oh, why will she go for a dirty Indian like you? Or, white women don't go for Asians and Indians. I don't know how that happened. I didn't expect you to go for a white woman or end up with a white woman. And I was a little bit dumbfounded.
This is #1 bullshit. I think all...
But then as I would talk to my Asian friends and other ethnic friends, I started finding out the same thing, where a lot of times they would get this level of prejudice, ironically, from white men who are in interracial relationships, even more so than they would get from white men who are dating white women. One of my Asian friends said that he was traveling to this area which had a lot of Asian women and white men couples, and he sat down at a restaurant, and at this restaurant, his fiance, by the way, is a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. The whole time he got stared down, the whole time he had nasty looks, and I was a little bit dumbfounded by this story years ago. I'm like, dude, this makes no sense. If you are in an interracial relationship, why would you hate other people in interracial relationships or make them feel uncomfortable, right? So I started going down the rabbit hole on the internet, right? I started checking out some of these right-wing spaces. I think they call it the manosphere or whatever. So if you think about like Passport Bros and all that, they're a part of that. And it made no sense to me at first, right? Because these are guys who are into far-right politics that talk about making America whiter, kicking out all the immigrants, and, just re-immigration, not letting the West fall to immigrants, and how the white race is declining in number and all that, right? So why would these guys simultaneously, while holding these views, also put down white women and go for women of color? That was the piece of the puzzle I could not put together, right? That was the piece of like the puzzle. I'm like, this makes no sense at all. And here they even highlight this guy as a passport bro because his wife was Hamong. So I started exploring and trying to understand these kinds of guys. And here's what I realized. In their youth, or when they were younger, at some point, they ran into rejection from white women. So that is why they preface a lot of their preferences with not just being into Asian women or Latinas, but also simultaneously putting down white women by saying they're brainwashed by feminism, or they're like not even that attractive and all that. So they're doing that, but then I started being a little bit more puzzled. I'm like, well, then why are these guys upset when white women are dating interracial or interracially? Once again, I started digging more and more, seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes, and started trying to understand these guys and their mindset. And what I found was, in those years of being rejected by white women, usually in their younger years, right? These guys ran to extremist politics, right? Like the far right politics that would inflate their egos and tell them, hey, you're much better than a person of a certain color because your skin's a certain color and your eyes are a certain color and you have a better history of conquering these people. This inflated their ego and made up for that lack of confidence of being rejected by white women when they were younger. So that was one piece of it. And in terms of going after women of color and joining the Passport Bros movement, where they were talking about or like bragging about being with women who are not white and conquering them in a way, that's to make up for that confidence of not doing well with white women in their youth. So I started to put that piece of the puzzle together. That's kind of how they work, or that's kind of how they are. Now, mind you, this does not apply to every white guy in an interracial relationship. I'm sure most white guys who date interracially are normal, good people, right? It's just about these specific kinds of guys who happen to be into far right politics, want to send all the immigrants back and all that, but they happen to have immigrant or non-white wives. So this is all a part of that manosphere movement. Now the other piece of the puzzle, right? Like, why would women go for these guys, right? Because commonly Asian women go for them the most. Part of it could be due to economic means. Like if a guy from a wealthier country who has more resources and can provide you a stable life, obviously you're going to go for that guy, right? Because he's going to offer you a better life. Sometimes it's that need to fit in a little bit more. So let's say you had somebody who was an Asian American woman. So he probably wanted to fit in more with the white crowd. So he's obviously going to go for white guys. And it's actually a thing in the Asian American community where a lot of Asian American women actually don't go for Asian American guys. So that fits together. But I also want to talk about this overarching double standard when it comes to interracial relationships. And I think this may have to do with the history of America itself. Like, America was founded on white men. Like, you know, back when the whole country was being colonized, white men getting with native and black women on the regular, and it was completely fine. But if it was to happen the other way around, it would be a pretty big problem. And I feel like on a root level, America still hasn't changed from that, or even the Western world itself. Because a white guy can say that he's into Latinas or Asian women and everybody's okay with it. Everybody's fine. But let's say we reverse the roles. Let's say a guy who's not white says he's into white women. I mean, he might not get hung like he used to, but he would still get gaslit. He'd be harshly judged. He'd be told to stay with his own kind. Or people would ask him passive aggressive questions like, oh yeah, well, what's wrong with women of your own race? You don't like the color of your own skin? Like, again, there's this double standard that sticks around in American society that is still alive today. Because I've been like, I've been on the end of it myself sometimes, right? Like, I've dated various races of women. I've also dated Indian women. And I find that there's a lot of gaslighting that goes on. And it's not just white people who are in on it, right? I feel like somehow, some way, over the years, simultaneously, I think like people of color also got coached into being the interracial dating police. And as a result of that, you have this almost like double standard in interracial dating in America, where if you have a white guy who shows his preferences to women of different races, everybody's fine with it. But if you have a guy who's not white that shows his preference for white women, it's almost like the interracial dating police comes out.
If tomorrow I tell the press that like a gangbanger will get shot, or a truckload of soldiers will be blowing up, nobody panics, because it's all part of the plan. But when I say that one little old mare will die, well, then everyone loses their minds.
Anyways, I want to finish this off with, if you're still listening, date whoever you want. There's no judgment. Don't feel shameful about it. Don't feel like, you have to date somebody because of their race, or you have to stay in your own race, or you have to date interracial. It's your life. Do it at what you want. But I want to talk about how eye-opening this whole revelation was to me, and how what we go through in our youth and what we go through when we're young, if we don't fix a lot of what was broken or a lot of what was not done right, we can end up having this out of whack ego or this out of whack development as adults. And it can show up in some of the most extreme ways, right? And I think the Passport Bros movement is just like a perfect example of this. Like, the Passport Bros movement is about these guys. And I'm going to talk about that movement a little bit because I'm not a big fan of it at all. Because there's also a lot of racism in that movement towards Indian men. Now, mind you, like, it's kind of hypocritical, right? Like, these guys are abandoning their own countries and going for women of different countries and different races, and it's completely fine, but somehow they're against men of color. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that movement and even all this like manosphere stuff, which draws in some of the most toxic men. And I just cannot help but think, but all of it ties back into that youth, or ties back into those younger years where, for a lack of a better word, white women did not give these guys any attention. Now, I know I've been bringing up white women a little bit. In terms of objective, like how difficult things get, right? Like, I do want to say in the Western world, or Western women, let's say Western women, are a little more difficult to date than women who happen to be Asian or Eastern European or South American, because in those parts of the world, if you have a stable job or if you have a stable life and you're making a decent living, you're going to be a catch. But let's say we're talking about some American girl who is already growing up in the suburbs. She's already taken care of financially for the most part. She's not really going to value how much money you make, right? She's going to value how exciting you are, how good you look, and how overall you conduct yourself in a social situation. So there's that. And also something else I found sickening, right? Like, this whole situation, you may have all heard about like what's going on in Iran, and how a lot of MAGA and these guys are just like talking about, like, mind you, these women are like likely not even of like, they're probably not even legal, right?
There. Come on in over here. Have a seat there. Yeah, have a seat back over there for me.
And these men are just overall just slobbering over these women like creeps, right? Like, once again, it's that fetishization or this desire to make up for that broken youth. I know I'm all over the place right now, but it's like this desire to make up for a broken youth and that confidence you never got due to being rejected by women of your own nationality or heritage, and wanting to conquer other groups as a way to compensate for that. I think it's really sick, especially given that these women are young, man. That's like nasty, dude. But it's like, again, if men do not like fix themselves and heal and proactively work on some of their youth, right? or some of their own broken youth, or some of their own broken upbringing, this is what can result, right? Like, no matter what your ethnicity is or what group you're from. So I would also tell all you guys who are listening in, like, maybe you didn't have the most ideal upbringing. You should most definitely seek therapy or try to work on yourself to make sure that you grow into a healthy, confident person who doesn't end up having this kind of a mindset. Anyways, I've said more than I needed to say. I've been meaning to upload more content, guys. Be on the lookout, but this is, again, a really dark topic. But sometimes you got to talk about these kind of topics because they do impact some of what desis abroad go into. This is a hilarious image, by the way, because I know they try to do one for like Indian men when they were moving to Japan. Like, this is just hilarious, but also sickening. Anyways, y'all, I'm out.